Hello, welcome to Ooh, I'm very low down. Hello, welcome to SquishiVision, where I am using those. We'll fix it in a second. I watched this episode yesterday and then fell asleep before we react to it. So we're reacting to it now. Actually, no, I didn't fall asleep. No, yeah, I got tired. I had a shower. I played D&D, and then I fell asleep. I don't know what that thing now is. So yeah, this was a really good episode. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that nearly all of the main cast, people of colour. Possibly the first time Doctor Who history. I think the only people who weren't of colour were... There's only actually 3 characters who are white. Mrs. Flood, who had one line, the woman who Belinda saved, who had 1 line, 2 lines, and the paramedic with a doctor, because I think the doctor was Asian, so the paramedic who was with a doctor, I think had maybe a line, maybe, yeah, I think they had a line. That's like fairly, like pretty good for diversity. And this episode, I mean, okay, I put in the vertical video that this is a Doctor Who episode that celebrates black excellence. I'm obviously not black, so I'm potentially speaking out of turn. But I think actually it does. I think this does a better job. I think this is a better job of celebrating a positive depiction of black culture than Demons of Punjab does of my own culture. And that wasn't a bad episode, but I think this is a much... My broadcasting, I'm getting a green light, but there's no data. Okay, now it's an excellent selection. Don't know what that was about. It just felt away. Although I will say, with Doctor being like, 2019 a good year. Well, kind of depends on where in the world you were 2019. I suppose here in the UK, it was a good year for most people until it started to become not. And I think 2020 was when it wasn't a good year. But hey, yeah, at least it's 2019 or 2020. I thought this was going to be a Belinda-like episode when she got left behind and wasn't part of like the instigating factors, but then she got brought in later on. That weird kid, not answered in this episode. Not answered in this episode at all. Wonder what that's about. We got a surprise appearance of Joe Martin back as the Doctor. Seems to be the kind of the what they're gonna use her for. In the context of the show, just wheel out Joe Martin whenever we want to kind of do this is what a previous incarnation of a Doctor did, because we have this person who plays an incarnation of the Doctor, but you know, never really kinda words had their own run. I mean, if John Hurt survived longer, maybe there would have been a similar thing with them, brought them back for the occasional cameo. Not sure. But yeah, that was I knew they were going to do that as soon as they did the whole panning of the camera and getting the occlusion, and I knew that as soon as we saw them on the other side, it was going to be Joe Martin's Doctor, and it was like, I knew it. It makes me think, actually, I'm very soft to the idea of just throwing in a random episode of Doctor Who. I don't think we need to. I know people like, oh, give like Paul McGann an entire season. I don't think we need to like retroactively do that. But I wouldn't be like opposed to throwing in random episodes that star a past Doctor. They're never gonna do it because the producers of Doctor Who are always about, you know, when you focus on the current current Doctor and not go back on like previous Doctors within the main show. And then the multi-Doctor special. But I think if you set a precedent, it's not disrespectful. I think if you do it for one Doctor and not for the rest, then it can be. It would be nice, I think. I think I'm soft on that idea now, more so than I was before. If I was indeed not soft before. I really like the whole painting thing. I'm kind of sad they didn't do it for Belinda's bit. Belinda's bit was literally just the live action with a filter on it. I did like that for the rest of the stories they told, or at least the rest of the stories that the other characters told. It was like this painting-esque thing. I enjoyed watching that. And it's an art style which I'm pretty sure is from a black culture. Obviously, black cultures are not just a one thing. There are many. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know which one it comes from. I did like how the Doctor kind of like interacted with black culture and how it didn't break me out of the immersion. I think there's a risk here that you were like that you treat the Doctor like a black human, and it's kind of like, I think it's talking down on to the audience by being like, okay, we're gonna get the Doctor to act like a black human man because he acts as a black human man rather than a Doctor. And it's like, well, no, he's a person that is playing this really famous role who isn't a human man. But white Doctors have like embodied white English culture, so why wouldn't Shutigata's Doctor embrace black human culture? And so the way to do it right is what we did in this episode, where they still tie it into the Doctor's need to belong to a world, which is how it worked in the past, and it's kind of how it works here as well. And it kind of, you were recognizing that this was celebrating Shutigata's background, and Shutigata was celebrating their own background, but it didn't take you out of the actually I typed some random stuff because I need to test my new chat thing, but it didn't really take you out of the, is that legible? Could that be better? Maybe. It'd be nice if there was more shadows in the text. It'd be nice if the background was more dynamic. I think I'm gonna, can I change this to make this a bit, where is it, where's the chat? Where is the... Oh, hello, Santiago Ignacia Fuentealba. Sorry, I butchered that very poorly. I'm just trying to find... Oh, I recognize like half the words you just said. Opacity 0.25. Let's make the opacity 0.4. Is that any better? Does that look worse? I don't speak Spanish, I'm sorry. The issue is that it's a corner of my screen, not my full screen. And so I kind of want to mask out the edges. I'll play with that another time. What was I saying? What was I in the middle of? I was in the middle of saying something. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know what you're saying. But I am gonna test this actually by typing in here. Does that come through? That comes through. Okay, excellent. No, at least know the chat's working fine. What was I saying? Yeah, so I think it's actually kind of cool. I think they did it right. I think they could have done it wrong. I think they could have done it in a way which is like makes you forget that Shutigata playing a Doctor. And they didn't. They did it the same way they've done the Doctor embracing white English culture, which is the correct way to do it. And that's by tying it to the Doctor's need for a home. And it works within the context of how they interacted with the other characters. So I think that was very, very good. What else was I going to say about this episode? I also supporting cast were a spectrum, but the person who played the barber was really good. Like, played the role to brief. And also I like that these actors were able to, like, they didn't have to, like, anglicize their performance. The performance felt very true to the setting. I don't know, and I haven't checked, and maybe I should have, whether these actors are native to the country that this episode was set in. But it was nice that even, like, the alien, well, actually he wasn't alien, he was immortal who became immortal, but even, like, he was allowed to, like, kind of speak with a natural accent and a natural inflection. So I enjoyed all of that for sure. I was a bit muddled in the middle, so I like the twist that, you know, especially with the context of the Pantheon, that he was setting himself up to be the person who was all of the gods of the stories, and the Doctor was like, no, you're not, because I've met them. And he's like, and then I got confused because he was like, well, actually, okay, I'm the person behind it. And I got really confused for a long time of what was going on. I'm like, what do you mean? So you actually are them, or you're not? And eventually I got it. It was a kind of mixed middle explanation, but then when you think back to early episodes where Barbara was like, I invented something called World Wide Web, and then somebody plagiarized that name after me, it actually makes it more surprising that throwaway line actually helps wrap this whole thing together, because you realise this is a person who is angry about the lack of attribution to his work, which is a very real thing to feel, and a very artist bane to have to experience. And using that kind of bane as a origin point for a villain arc actually works fairly well, because it's fairly understandable. People like being attributed for their work. So I enjoyed that. I mean, I enjoyed the premise of the engines being something that needs stories to feed it. Oh, I love the fact that the Doctor, you know, like, Doctor Who, one of the taglines of Doctor Who is the greatest story ever told. The Doctor is like, the theme of being a legend of a story and myth, and the Doctor is like a very, very long prevailing part of the mythos, especially in New Who. So the Doctor being like, you want a story from me, I'm going to tell you an ordinary story about an ordinary person, and deciding to tell a story about NHS was a very, like, nice touch, because the Doctor didn't need to tell one of their stories, which we all know would have been, like, infinitely amazing, but instead decided to tell a story of a human, which is actually very Doctorish. But we still got that nice kind of wow. Actually, I was like, oh, it would be nice to see them, like, tell a story about their own life and see the impact it has on the engine. And then we didn't. I'm like, okay, well, actually, the reason they've given is fair enough. And then actually in the end, because I was like, oh, this would be a perfect opportunity to, like, have a flashback of the previous Doctor, or do like a thing where we see the previous Doctor's faces on screens. We haven't done that in a while, but they actually did do that at the end. And it was actually the resolution to the issue, which I actually really, really enjoyed. So yeah, there's a lot of, like, this was an episode that felt a lot like one of the episodes I watched when I was younger, where there are multiple kind of beats that I enjoyed, essentially. So that was nice. I like that. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I think I've said a lot. I need to choose my green screen. I also need to watch 6 episodes of Andor. God save me. I'm even have time. Right, I work it out. I need to watch it at some point. Thanks for tuning in, and I will. So wait, hang on. What is this? Thanks for tuning in, and might see you in a bit. Bye.